All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we have Paul Trammell, who is an author, sailor, and recovering alcoholic. Paul, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fantastic, man. Thanks for asking. And we like to jump right in. So if you could start with telling us a little bit more about yourself and what you like to do for fun, that'd be great.
You bet. My favorite pastime is surfing. I don't get to do it very often. I live on a sailboat, and I sail about. And places to surf and places to anchor a sailboat are usually the opposites. At odds with each other. But when I get the opportunity, that is my favorite pastime. More often than that, I find myself most of my pastimes these days take place in the water. So, spearfishing, snorkeling, free diving. If I'm in a place where I can hike, I love to hike in the wilderness too. And they all have wilderness in common. I love, being in nature and surrounded by nature. So whatever gets me out into it, whatever opportunity I have to get out into nature and get deep in it, the deeper the better. That's what I enjoy doing.
I gotcha. Have you always loved nature, or did that start at some point in your life?
As far back as I can remember, literally as far back as I can remember, my favorite thing to do was to wander off into the woods by myself. I didn't have to be by myself, but I typically was. Um, yeah, just wandering around in the woods, looking at animals. When I was a little kid, I would make things out of sticks and climb trees and try to build forts. And I used to try to catch animals, anything. Yeah, it's always been nature. Like I say, I often say that was my first love, and it still is.
I gotcha. Well, you're an author and a sailor. Do you get paid as a sailor, or is that just something you really love to do?
It's I don't get paid to sail, no. It's just where I live. I sold my house in 2019, and my truck and everything else I owned, and quit my job, and now I live on a sailboat, completely nomadic. I don't have my everybody in the United States anyway. Everybody has to have an address, for tax purposes and for your bank and for your credit cards and all that.
Yeah.
That's my sister's house. I don't live there. I don't live anywhere besides on my boat, and the boat's always moving about, and usually not in the United States. Right now I'm in the Bahamas, for instance. So
There we
yeah, no, I sail nomadically. That's my thing these days.
I
It's my
gotcha.
life.
And so when you spearfish, is that like you're spearfishing for your food? And so there's completely no cost. It's like you got your shelter, you got your food, or is there still some monthly cost that you have to handle?
Yeah, the bills are like communications bills, like phone. Um, and is there anything else? I don't think I have a regular bill besides phone. Well, I'm a podcaster, so I have some little, some very small bills that have to do with
Yeah.
keeping a website alive and the podcast host. But that's about it for bills. I have to buy diesel occasionally and gasoline for my dinghy. And and I do have to buy food. I can't get all of it from the ocean. But yes, when I spearfish, I'm getting my food. I'm
Gotcha.
getting my protein, my dinner. I still buy oatmeal for breakfast and things like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, spearfishing is fun, and I love doing it. And I would be in the water anyway, even if I was a vegetarian. I'd still be in the water, snorkeling and free diving. But I really enjoy snorkeling and free diving with the spear in hand. And when I see something I want to eat, I take it. And you know, where I am now, it's very good, and I eat fresh fish every day, or lobster. Lobster season just ended in the Bahamas, but it was a good season.
There we go, dude. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Respect.
Oh, right on, right on. Yeah, it's fun, it's exciting, it's great exercise. It gets you straight in, like deep into nature. I mean, you're so into nature, you're like back in the food chain, basically.
Yeah.
Um, it's a very um, it's an intense experience. It's a lot of fun, and it's exciting, and it's nourishing. In a lot of different ways.
Is there ever any fear down there when you're free diving?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Um, it requires getting over fears. I was afraid. I was terrified, absolutely terrified of sharks for a long time, and the more I've learned about them, the more I've gotten over that. And you learn how to behave around them, and you learn how to interpret their behavior, and you learn what they're really going to do. And then then you get past the fear. It's kind of like learning, people could be afraid of dogs or bears or, other people, but once you learn about those things, you can get past your fears. There's also, you can be afraid of drowning or moray eels, or
Yeah,
there's other dangers down there too. But no, for the most part these days, it's just all enjoyable to me.
I
It's
got
my
you.
happy place. If I'm in a bad situation and I got to think about a happy place, it's always underwater around a coral reef,
I feel you.
floating weightlessly in a silent environment with fish swimming around. It's pretty wonderful.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
it is.
tell us about tell us about sharks and how you're supposed to behave around them to, avoid being eaten.
Yeah. Well, so first off, sharks are not out there hunting people. Like an alligator might see you the same as a pig or a deer and actually hunt you and kill you. So I'm more afraid of alligators. I'm from Florida.
Okay.
A shark is not hunting people. They're hunting fish. They like wounded fish. They see a human and we're just another large animal in the ocean to them. They're not going to try and kill us. Um, so when you see one, the first thing you do is just keep doing what you're doing. Don't react as if you're scared because they are a predator, and any predator reacts to something that's afraid of it. It makes them think, okay, that might be prey. That's what everything I chase does. All the things that I eat try to run away from me and are scared of me. So when they see you not scared, just going about your business, then you're on the same level with them all of a sudden. So that's step number one. Don't react at all, first off. Um, but maintain eye contact with them. And if you're going to do anything, swim towards them, because that shows them in my case, it tricks them into thinking I'm not scared of them and I'm coming after them.
Yeah.
So if a shark swims towards me, I will turn and swim towards it. Um, Same thing with barracudas, much more common with barracudas because they swim towards you all the time. Sharks usually just kind of cruise by and disappear, but sometimes they'll swim around. Yeah, and you want to swim towards them or definitely maintain eye contact. That's like real important. Maintain eye contact. Don't run away. That goes for all predators. We all know that about dogs, right? If you turn and run from a dog, even if it wasn't chasing you to begin with, now it is chasing you because you're running from it. That's why they chase cars, right? Cars are always running away from them. They run away every time.
Fair.
They can't help
Fair,
it.
fair.
They can't help it. So you don't run away from a shark. You maintain eye contact. You look at the way they're moving. If they're cruising around casually, everything's cool. When they start making quick turns, when they lower their pectoral fins, that's when you know that they're getting into an excited feeding kind of behavior, and then that's when you want to maintain eye contact, but start heading back towards your dinghy and getting out of there and going somewhere else. And then if they really come towards you, you try to hold something between you and them. I've always got a 9-foot spear in my hand, so I just kind of point that at them, and then that works. I've never had a real problem with sharks.
Okay.
They do. They're out there all the time. But this year in the Bahamas, I've seen more. I've seen a shark more times freediving than I haven't. Um, but they do their own thing. They're not interested in us. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're interested in us because they know we're spearfishing and they know we're injuring fish, and they know we're going to have a fish on a stick at some point.
Yeah.
And if they know that and they've learned it, then they're going to be much more interested. And when you realize that that's what they're doing, then it's time to go somewhere else. In my opinion,
I got you.
get in the dinghy and move on.
There we go.
Yeah.
How deep do you go when you free dive?
Usually when I'm spearfishing, it's shallow. I mean, it's rarely deeper than 40 feet. Usually more like 15 or 20. Sometimes it's in shallow water, like 10 feet. But I'd say most often it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 feet.
And so
I can swim down and hunt at that depth.
you're like
But
out there in the ocean, so you're not hitting the floor at 20 feet. You're just that 20 feet.
yeah, yeah. I'm going down to the bottom for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm
I,
not out in like the deep ocean doing this. Some people do. Some people go after pelagic fish out in the deep ocean. I'm not at that level. I swim around. I'm around like rocks and coral reefs, looking in
I see.
caves. Yeah, what I like is coral reef. That's the best. If you can find a good, there's lots of it here.
I got you. Does it ever get lonely out there on the boat?
I don't experience, I sail solo. I sail by myself. And I've always been okay alone, and I don't really experience loneliness. I experience solitude, which is like a positive emotion that has to do with being alone. Um, I love being out on the ocean alone. It just enhances the whole nature experience to me. It's fun. I've had crew before, rarely, but I have a little bit, and that can be fun too. It certainly makes sailing easier. But no, the quick answer to your question is no. It doesn't get lonely to me.
That's wild. I feel like I'd be so lonely. Is that something it's always been that way for you? Just like always love being in the wilderness? You're always okay being alone?
Yeah, it is. Like I said, some of my earliest memories are wandering around in the woods by myself and not thinking about the fact that I'm by myself. It's just, my brother wasn't into the same things I was really back when we were kids. Like I was always the guy who wanted to go out in the woods, and he was more like into baseball or some, other things. So I just did my thing by myself, and then later in life, I was a mountain biker, and I mountain biked alone all the time, and then I got into sailing, and I was single when I got into sailing, and I wasn't gonna not sail because I'm single. So
Yeah.
and here I am, still sailing and still single.
I gotcha.
if I had a if I had a girlfriend or a wife, I wouldn't be a solo sailor, but I'm quite happy by myself. It's very peaceful.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, there's never an issue, and you can do anything on a sailboat by yourself if you just figure out how to do it, and it's not a problem.
I gotcha. Well, tell us a little bit more about your motivation. What really gets you up and keeps you going?
Well, I mean, I'm 8 years sober. One thing that keeps me going is every morning when I wake up and realize I don't have a hangover, that's motivation to get up and just enjoy life. And one of my favorite things is to help other people get sober. My first book is called Alcoholics Not Anonymous. And like I was saying earlier, part of the premise there is that it's better for all of us problem drinkers, whether we're still drinking or not drinking anymore. It's better for all of us to not hide it. Um, I don't, I think anonymity had its place in the past, especially when it was people, there was more shame associated with alcoholism. But nowadays, we've all come to realize alcohol is a drug, just like cocaine or LSD or heroin. It's just plain and simple a drug, and addiction can happen to anybody, especially in a society where addictive drugs are extremely commonplace. I mean, there's entire sections of the grocery store devoted to alcohol,
Yeah.
and in gas stations where when you're driving your freaking car, you go into the convenience store, at least in the South, not necessarily in all the states, but where I lived, every gas station's got beer.
Oh yeah.
And some of them in Louisiana, I mean, they sell liquor too in the gas stations.
Hmm.
Um, so it's common. It can happen to anybody. Um, I get the best feeling of anything, of any feeling, from when someone tells me that they read one of my books and it helped them get sober. It's helping them to stay sober. That's just the best thing in the world. That's a big motivation for me.
Mm. Well, tell us a bit more about your books. And you got 9 of them now. So
Yeah.
some seem like they're for helping people get sober. Some seem like they're about sailing. Just give
Yep.
us the rundown.
Yeah. The first one came about because I was not being anonymous, and I was wide open on social media about the fact that I had quit drinking. And eventually people started asking me for advice. Strangers were using Facebook Messenger to ask me how I did it, and how do you get through this situation? And it seems hopeless in the beginning, and people are thinking about Christmas coming up and New Year's and the football game and the yearly event with their buddy where they go somewhere and they drink a lot, and like, how am I going to get past all that? Am I just what do you do? How do you get past that? And they asked me for advice, strangers. So I was typing so much on Facebook Messenger that eventually I realized if I just compiled all that, I'd have like a rough draft for a book. And I've always, at that point in my life, I hadn't written anything yet, but I'd always had that in the back of my head, like a lot of people do, like I should write a book one day.
Yeah.
So I did. I wrote Alcoholics Not Anonymous, A Modern Way to Quit Drinking. It was the system I developed to get sober. I didn't go to AA. I'm not like I said, I'm a loner. I'm not a group therapy kind of person.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't. AA is a great program for people that like groups and group activities and group therapy. A lot of us are like me, who are never going to go to an AA meeting. A whole lot of people, they're just not going to go for a wide variety of reasons, and that's okay too. We need a way to get sober too. So I made up my own system, and I thought a lot about it, and I wrote it all down, and I wrote a book. And when I realized that people were buying it, and I self-published it on Amazon, when I realized that strangers were buying, like the first few copies, I thought, okay, my parents might have bought the first few copies,
Yeah.
I might have had a few relatives, first, that's what I'm thinking at first. Like, okay, there's a few sales, but these might be people who are just trying to encourage me, who know me. Well, at some point I realized, no, there's strangers buying it and commenting on it and leaving reviews and telling me they're getting sober. And I'm like, damn, this is good. I should write something else. Well, at that point in my life, I had just started sailing. I had just learned how, and just ran with it, and bought a boat within a year of taking my first sailing class. I bought a sailboat, and then I took it on a long, 1,000-mile solo journey across the ocean, around from the west coast of Florida to the Dry Tortugas, around South Florida to Miami, and then to St. Augustine. 3 legs of 300 and something miles each. It was a huge adventure, something that's completely unrepeatable. To go out in a boat and not know if you're going to be able to sleep, not know if you're going to be terrified, not know if you're going to be able to do it, if you're going to sink or the boat's going to break. So I wrote a book about that. It's called Becoming a Sailor. And that book did well. And I wrote another one, Journey to the Ragged Islands, my first trip to the Bahamas solo, where I had a terrifying shark encounter, and I actually almost drowned. I passed out underwater while freediving in that journey. That was a life-changing experience. A lot of cool stuff happened. I had a lot more adventure than I bargained for in that trip, Journey to the Ragged Islands. So I've been writing sailing nonfiction. I've written a few more. I've also written a couple of novels.
You just slid past almost drowning. You got to tell us a bit more about.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Like, I'm in the Bahamas. I'm writing my 3rd book, Journey to the Ragged Islands. I want adventure. I'm like, I need, like, this book has to have adventure. I'm thinking, like, I'm a novice writer. If this book doesn't have some cool adventure, this is what it's going through my head. If this book doesn't have like some real adventure in it, it's not gonna sell. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm looking for it. Well, I got more than I bargained for. Like I already mentioned, a few things that already happened at this point where I was like, holy cow, like I've had enough adventure. Like I just want to chill for a bit here. Well, finally I found a blue hole. One of my goals was to dive in a blue hole, which is like a sinkhole in the ocean that leads to a cave system. And hang on one second. There's this strange noise I have to investigate. Can you let me go for like 5 seconds?
For sure. All right.
So one of my goals while writing the book Journey to the Ragged Islands was to dive in a blue hole, which is like a sinkhole on the floor of the ocean that leads into a cave system. They were all created during the last ice age, when the sea levels were much lower, and they were basically caves, but now they're full of water. So finally I found one, and I anchored, and there's no one around. It's like 2 or 3 miles offshore in the Bahamas. It's in shallow water, like 15 feet deep. And then it's a vertical shaft, maybe 100 feet across, circular, goes straight down. The bottom was sloped it was 50 feet on one side and like 85 on the other or something. And there was a huge cave entrance at the bottom. And back then I was more into deeper diving. So I dove all the way to the bottom 4 times. And on the 4th dive, I felt great. I remember I felt like euphoric. I remember thinking like, I'm a fish. Like I'm like so comfortable underwater. I feel just like a real fish,
Yeah.
Well, that's a warning sign right there. When you start having thoughts like that, that's like narcosis. Like you need to be getting to the surface immediately.
Yeah.
When you start having silly thoughts like I'm a fish. I didn't really think I was a fish, but I was just like euphoric, I was euphoric.
Yeah.
So I'm swimming back to the surface, um, and everything was cool. I didn't feel out of breath or uncomfortable. And all of a sudden, I realized I was falling asleep. And I remember thinking to myself, "Oh, hang in there, Paul. Hang in there. Don't let this happen. Don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep." And then, bam! All of a sudden, I'm asleep. I passed out. I'm dreaming. I'm having a dream. That I remember it. I was probably 15 when this happened, and I had a dream, and I remember it distinctly. It's a profile of myself. So I'm looking at myself, side view of me. There's a brick wall in the background, and somebody is talking to me, but the person talking to me is off screen. So all I can see is myself and this brick wall behind me. And I'm like nodding my head, looking up a little bit at someone taller than me and taking in some important information. And then that's it. That's all. That's the whole dream. Then I woke up. I was coughing. I had water in my throat, water, on my epiglottis. I woke up coughing, totally disoriented. Didn't know what was going on. Didn't know why I was in the water. Didn't even know I was in the water at first. And I was also blind. I couldn't see.
Mhm.
I remember opening my eyes and all I saw was white, white screen. And then, as what happens if you've ever been knocked out, when you wake up, you can't quite see yet, and then the world kind of comes into view slowly. Um, and I saw my boat, and I thought, oh, I fell off the boat. It's the single hand sailor's biggest fear: it's falling off your boat while you're sailing, and the boat continues to sail away from you as you tread water. Uh, that's what I thought happened, and then I thought, well, shoot, what's in my hand? Oh, it's my GoPro. Like, why do I have a GoPro in my hand? And then I'm like, oh, and I got fins on and a mask. And then I realized I had dropped my spear, and then it all hit me. I passed out while freediving, and it hit hard. It was scary. It shook me up. The dream, everything, it all came back to me. It was like not really dying and coming back, but almost dying and going to the other side for a moment, and like my guardian angel talking to me and telling me, shaking his finger at me and saying, Paul, you need to be more careful, and you're not done yet. It's not time yet for you to be here. You need to go back. You've
Yeah.
got you've got more stuff to do, or whatever. Oh man, it shook me up. Yeah, I got back on the boat, and my mind still wasn't working properly. I made a few mistakes trying to sail back to land, and I eventually just took all the sails down and motored to the nearest place I could anchor and dropped the anchor. And and then, um, yeah, it changed my life. Like it's almost like this is all bonus time now, but it's also time that I was told to come back, because there's more work to be done.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think it has to do with writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the impression I was given. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's what it felt like. That's what it feels like. Yeah, and I'm not afraid of drowning anymore because it wasn't an unpleasant experience. It was just like falling asleep.
Really? Yeah, that's what I'm like, so the I'm just so confused about how it happened. You I must have missed this part in the story. Did you run out of oxygen and you were just literally drowning, or did you actually just fall asleep?
Yeah, I ran out of oxygen. The
I
the
see.
reason that I
And just
didn't have the reason I never felt out of breath is that, I had probably expunged all the carbon dioxide from my blood. So in between dives, when you're free diving, in between dives, you need to breathe properly in a specific way. Specifically, you need to be exhaling longer than you're inhaling and breathing slowly. Just breathing slowly and normally would be okay. The worst thing to do would be to breathe quickly, like to hyperventilate,
Mhm.
which fills your blood with oxygen, but what it does is it gets rid of all the carbon dioxide. And somehow I didn't breathe up properly back then. I didn't really know what I was doing so much back then. I mean, I shouldn't have been freediving alone. First off, I should have taken a class and gotten, studied this before doing it. But and now I breathe differently between dives. But what happens is if you don't have carbon dioxide in your blood, you never know you're out of breath. So the reason you feel out of breath and you start getting uncomfortable and your body goes into the mammalian dive reflex, and you have contractions, and you have all these panic kind of sensations of oh my God, I have to breathe. That's all because of carbon dioxide building up in your blood. It's not because of oxygen depletion. It's because of carbon dioxide building up. So if you don't breathe up properly between dives, you don't have enough carbon dioxide in your blood to ever know that you're about to pass out. That's what happened to me. I passed out from lack of oxygen, but I didn't have enough carbon dioxide in my blood for my body to know I was about to pass out. And
That
that's
is
one of the big
crazy.
dangers of freediving. Yeah. And if you don't know that, and you don't breathe properly between dives, you just pass out without even knowing it's about to happen. And the opposite happens. You feel euphoric. You feel like a fish.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're dead.
I was wondering why you were saying like, I feel like a fish. I'm so comfortable in the water. But
Yeah.
that makes a lot more sense now.
There's a lot of really fascinating things that go on in your body when you're freediving. Our bodies go through what's called a mammalian dive reflex, and you can look that up and study it if you like. But we do it. Whales and seals and marine mammals do it, and birds can do it too. And there's a few things that happen when we freedive. One, this is all part of the reflex. The heart rate slows down. The spleen releases extra red blood cells. You get contractions in your chest because your body starts pulling blood from your extremities to your organs. And there's one more thing I think that happens in your brain, but our bodies basically are designed to freedive. Like we were built with that in mind. Like we are marine mammals, I think. Like
Really?
kind of. I mean, yeah, our bodies have a reflex built in. I call it a reflex. It's called a reflex. It's basically a series of things that happen. It's like a program. We're like computer programs with a body, basically.
Hmm. Yep.
Our brain is like a computer. It's got things programmed into it that happen. The heart beats, the brain works, the spleen works, blah, blah, blah. Well, when we dive, this protocol happens. When we free dive, this whole like pre-programmed protocol in every human.
Yeah.
And it's like we're designed to be able to free dive. And if you do it wrong, you pass out. But if you do it right, people can dive like 500 feet or so. The world record's completely ridiculous how deep it is. It's somewhere in the order of 500 feet.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like scuba divers don't generally go that deep.
Uh-huh. Has this
But
has this realization ever popped a thought in your head that there might be a human underwater civilization?
no, but that could be a good science fiction book.
Yeah.
It's a sci-fi story right there.
For sure.
Yeah, why not? The mammalian dive reflex taken to the next level. They actually live down there. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, cool,
Yeah.
man. Thanks for sharing that story with us. Thanks for telling us a little bit more about your books. And so the first one was about kind of helping people get sober, and the rest were about sailing, or did you write any more about helping?
Yeah, I've written a couple of novels too. One of them, the first novel I wrote, it's called Dead Flowers on Wednesday. It's based on a band, guitar player in a reggae band,
Yeah.
and we went on a tour and in a bus that was a school bus converted to a tour bus that ran on vegetable oil, which is a conversion you can do to a diesel engine. So this guy, it was like a young guy in his 20s, took this old school bus and put bunks in it and built a place for equipment in the back for our gear, and was our driver. And he charged us $100 a day. There's no fuel cost because we took our fuel from the waste vegetable oil from the back of restaurants, like in the middle of the night. Like when we're doing a gig, he's out like taking someone's waste vegetable oil.
Yeah.
So there was no fuel cost. Anyway, I started off writing a nonfiction about that experience and quickly decided that it would be much more fun to write fiction.
Yeah.
And that was my first novel. And then I wrote another novel about another thing I think about a lot, which is treasure hunting. While spearfishing, I'm always hoping to find some
Some booty.
gold doubloons on the
Yeah.
bottom. So I wrote a novel about that, and I'm working on a third novel right now. And then the rest of my books, there's about 4 of them that are sailing nonfiction, 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So I'm always writing. Like these days, I'm always writing one fiction and one nonfiction. I kind of go back and forth. Like I'll work on one for a few weeks and then need to take a break from it, and I'll work on the other one for a few weeks. Need to take a break, back and forth, and that's my work day. That and the podcast I do.
There we go.
That's my work. Yeah,
I love it. Well,
that's what goes on the boat. Like it's not all surfing and free diving. It's a lot of writing as well.
Yeah, a lot of work. I got you. Well, tell
Yeah.
us about your dreams and goals, man. What's your vision for your novels and your life?
This is literally my dream. This is a dream I've had since I was a kid, to live on a boat and to sail. And I'm literally living my dream right now. And my main number one goal that I remind myself of every day is that I need to perpetuate this lifestyle, because if I don't keep writing books and selling them, I'll run out of money and have to go back to land and get a job again. And this comes to a crashing end, which would be, heartbreaking. So yeah, my dream is happening right now. And my only number one, I have two goals. I mean, one is to stay sober, because that'll bring everything to a crashing halt as well.
Yeah.
Um, the other is to perpetuate this lifestyle by becoming a better writer and a better marketer of books. That's like, I can write well. My books get good reviews and they sell and people like them. I'm not a marketer though. I'm self-published, so it's up to me to market my books. So that's like the thing I got to learn and get better at. Um, and you've reminded me of it with some of the questions you sent me, to think about for this podcast. It's already reminded me that, like, yeah, number one, like I can already write pretty well. I always study writing, and I'm always getting better. Each book's better than the previous one. I really need to get better at marketing.
Yeah.
So, hey, I'm doing it right now. This is
There we
talking
go.
about my books.
There we go.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Speaking of, you just answered our next question, top 1 to 2 skills, but what does marketing books look like for you? It looks like podcasts. What else does it look like?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I started my sailing podcast, Offshore Sailing and Cruising. I started that with the idea that it would be a way to market my books, and I of course I talk about them a little bit, every episode, and it's turned into much more than that. It's a podcast. I meet someone new every week. I've made a lot of friends. I've learned a lot. Um, so that's one way of doing it. There's social media. You got everything these days. You got to be on social media, to get your name out there.
Yep.
That's like the biggest media these days. That's taken over television, I think. I mean, I actually quit watching television in 1991
Oh, wow.
when I was a junior in college. I was finally just like, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to watch TV at all. You know, that's what I do. I just sometimes just cut things completely. I'm either like all in or I'm all out. Uh, so I cut TV a long time ago. But how social media is these days. Like if you're trying to make a name for yourself, you need to be on it. So marketing books is, also social media. Um, yeah, and what else is it? Meeting people.
Mhm.
I meet people while I'm sailing all the time. It's very easy to meet people in this lifestyle. We're all like stuck on a boat with no one to talk to, and when we're anchored next to each other, you can just go right over to any boat and say, in your dinghy and say, "Hey, how are you? What kind of boat is this? Oh, it's beautiful." And then they're like, "Oh, oh, well, come on aboard. Be my new friend."
Yeah.
So I meet people all the time out here, and have dinner together and go spearfishing together, go surfing. Yeah, what else does book marketing look like? I don't know. That's why I need to learn. I need to learn more about it. Get on it. Get on the ball. I'm already a writer. I'm already successful at that. And like most artists, like, we're not good at the business end of it. Now, I'm not. It's very typical for artists to be like, good at art. I can write music. I can perform music. I can do paintings. Um, I can write books. Can I sell them? Barely.
Yeah. I
Yeah. Yeah, you just gotta study. You gotta be a self-motivated. You gotta wake up in the morning and be like, okay, what's the most important thing for me to do today? Is it to proofread this book I've been working on again? Or is it to learn a new marketing skill? Is it to get online and look at, you know, God, there's all kinds of stuff online you can do and learn um, about marketing, advertising. It's endless. Like, you can learn anything in the whole world with the internet, anything you want. You can learn how to sail. You can learn how to do anything you want. You just got to get on there and do it instead of scrolling Facebook and scrolling through YouTube and watching videos of whatever you like to watch. Like, you get on there and learn something. That's what I got to do. I
yeah.
got to learn more. I got to I got to learn the things that are not fun. Like writing is fun to me, creating is fun. You got to get out and do the stuff that's not fun. I think Mike Tyson said that. Like he's like you don't want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and run. Well, that means your opponent doesn't either. So get up and do it. And now you're doing something he's not doing, and you got a better chance of beating him in the ring.
Yeah,
Got to get out there and do the things you don't want to do.
it's a fact. It's a fact.
Yeah,
I was gonna say,
yeah,
oh, what was I gonna say? Oh, marketing idea. I think you would go viral pretty quickly on TikTok if you took some of your craziest GoPro moments and snipped it up from like a free dive
yeah,
and posted
yeah.
it on TikTok.
All right.
Follow that.
You're on TikTok.
Kind of. I tried to steer clear of it, honestly, because it's a big time waster.
Yeah.
But I do know it would be the type of video that I would stay on, and then I would click on your profile. I'd go watch your other crazy shark videos.
All right. Yeah, I post stuff like that on Instagram. But you know what? Like I'm old school. I'm an old school Instagrammer. I post a photo and write a caption about it and think I've done something, innovative. No, no. The people that are innovative on Instagram are doing much more than that. They're creating reels with like 10 different videos with like 3 seconds from each video, making it into one nice reel with a soundtrack where the scene changes with the beat of the music,
Yep.
and then they've got the advanced settings and the tag the location and tag your friends and put this banner on it. And this friend of mine was showing me this the other day. She was just blasting through making a reel like in 10 seconds, and I was like, holy crap, like I don't know how come I don't know any of this. And
Yeah.
she's like, yeah, Paul, she's like, you're old school. You post a photo. She's like, people don't do that anymore. You don't just post a photo and write a caption. Like that's just totally like
Uh-huh.
old school. Oh man, things change so quick. You think, yeah, I'm on Instagram. Like I'm doing it. No, you're not. You need to be doing reels. You need to be learning the new stuff. You need to be
Yeah.
on TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah, TikTok is a huge way to market books. I understand. I actually got on TikTok and tried to learn it and do it, and then realized like this is quickly becoming a time wasting addiction,
Yeah.
where I just because TikTok learns exactly what you want to look at,
Oh
and
my
they just
God.
give you one after another, and oh, he watched this video, and let's give him another one, and let's give him another one like it, and let's see if he likes this. Oh, he likes that too. Give him more, 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 and then the next thing you know, and 2 hours went by. You're like, good God, 2 hours? Is that what did that really happen? Yeah,
Yeah.
it did. Yeah, not only that, but you just used up 2 gigabytes of your data.
Yeah. Yeah.
Living on a boat, like I don't have Starlink yet. I've got 50 gigabytes a month to work with here, and if I just used up two on TikTok, like that's a problem.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I get addicted to things. That's why I don't drink anymore. I don't smoke weed anymore. I don't have any drug addictions right now. But man, you know, TikTok, it can do it too. So can
Hey,
Facebook. So can Instagram. So can YouTube.
yeah, they know how to hit the dopamine receptors in your head. It'll be a dopamine
That's
addiction.
it. Yeah, that's it. That's what all the drug addictions do too. You get hooked on that quick fix of dopamine. We don't need it. You can get it. When you don't do those things, when you don't drink, you don't smoke weed, you find that you're happy without it. It takes a while, if you're an addict like I was, it's going to take a couple of years for your body to readapt, but now all of a sudden you realize, yeah, like I'm actually happy like I used to be only when I was high. And now I'm like happy just because I'm looking at a sunset,
Yeah.
or I'm sitting on the deck of my boat meditating, drinking some coffee. Well, there you go, coffee. Talking about drugs again.
Yeah.
All right, all right. I drink coffee. I'm sorry, I'm not totally drug free here. I do drink coffee,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm getting at. Like when you're living clean, you are happier than you were when you were an addict. You're feeling better. You're getting the dopamine, but you're getting it from real stuff. You're getting it from freediving. You're getting it from sunsets. You're getting it from a hug from a pretty girl. That you're gonna get it, and you're gonna get it better. You're just not gonna get it from lighting a lighter and hitting a bong, or
Yeah.
drinking 3 beers. Drinking 3 beers and hitting a bong. Like you don't get it instantly from something you paid for, and you don't
Yeah.
get sick afterwards. That's the best part. You don't wake up sick every day. You wake up ready to rock and roll in the morning. Early, get up there and do something. It's life. I mean, life is so much better
Mhm.
now than it was before. I used to wake up sick every day and be sick until noon when I started drinking again. It was like always sick, always sick, always trying to take the edge off your sickness. You're not having fun anymore because you're drinking. You're just trying to take the edge off your sickness. That's all it is, you know.
Yeah,
Those days are over. Now I get high by free diving, you know, and sailing and looking at the stars while I'm 300 miles offshore, you know.
absolutely.
Like that's something to really you want to feel high, like yeah, get 300 miles offshore, middle of the night by yourself in a sailboat and look up at the stars.
Isn't it just pitch black out there?
No, it's well, when it's cloudy, yes, black. I mean, if it's cloudy and the moon's not out, like, yeah, man, it's dark. You can't see anything. When it's clear, when there's no, clouds, you've either got all the stars out, which is a good bit of light. You can see the entire ocean when the star just from starlight. You can see
Yeah.
your boat. You can see all the stars. It's magnificent. And then if the moon's out, oh, it's almost like daylight. You know,
Mm.
it's you can see everything just fine. It's the moon's pretty bright.
Yeah,
Yeah, but if it's cloudy and raining, yeah, you can't see a thing. Nothing.
I got
Nothing at all. It's everything, you know, sailing is a little bit of everything. It's absolute beauty and joy and peace and serenity, and sometimes it's misery and terror. You know, it can be anything.
yeah.
It's all the extremes. And you try to minimize the terror and the misery, you know, by staying in the tropics helps, you know, staying in the tropics. Um, Picking your weather windows, sailing without a schedule, so you don't have to be somewhere at a certain day and sail on. You know, you don't have to sail in bad weather if you pick your weather windows properly and
Yeah.
don't sail on a schedule. And then it's you know, in the tropics, it's like nice and warm. Even if you get wet, you're not miserable.
Mhm.
You go up north, and it's a whole different story. You know, for me,
Yeah,
you get into a lot more misery in the cold water, in the cold weather.
I feel you.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, nice. What are the highest impact daily actions that are going to tick the needle forward towards your dreams and goals?
Um, Highest impact daily actions are going to be stepping outside my comfort zone, doing the things I don't want to do, learning the skills that are my deficiencies, identifying my deficiencies, and then learning those skills to remedy those deficiencies. And when we've been talking about that, for me, it's marketing. Um, you know, that's what I got to figure out how to do. You know, other things I do in the mornings that have a lot of impact on my life are routines. Um, Living on a boat, you got to have routines because there's a lot of potential to fall overboard and drown as your boat sails away. So if you do things in a routine, you are less likely to make mistakes, and that kind of builds over into daily life. If you want to be a self starter, if you want to be self employed and not have a boss, which is a great way to live, you have to be your own boss. You have to say, okay, back when I had a regular job, you know, I used to be a carpenter. I had no problem getting up and going to work and working 8 hours, 5 days, 5 days a week, you know, and taking two off. That's 40 hours a week, right? Typical day,
Hmm.
typical job. No, it's no problem to do that, you know, and then you spend 2 hours commuting too sometimes. So now you're talking really about a couple more every day. Well, when you're self-employed, you got to remind yourself, like, hey, how come I used to work 8 hours a day with no problem, and now you know I wake up and I want to have coffee and eat breakfast and read for a little while, and you know it's 10 o'clock and I haven't done any work yet. Like, why is that happening? So you gotta get back into routines. You got to get back into self motivation, and one of the things I do that really helps for that is every morning I get up and start the day with some discipline. I start the day with a half hour of yoga and then a half hour of meditation on the deck of my boat, usually as the sun's rising. And that has a lot of benefits. The yoga for general health, flexibility, strength, injury prevention when you're surfing, like absolutely, absolutely necessary. Like surfers do yoga, professional surfers do yoga, all of them do,
Yeah.
literally. Because otherwise, you get injured. You got to be flexible. So that helps. And it just helps you to start the day with some discipline, and then you can move right from that into your work. Um, you got to be you got to be a self starter. You got to be self motivated to be self employed. Otherwise, you're gonna fail at it. You're gonna feel like a failure. You're gonna go back and get a job and work for someone else, and now you're not living the dream anymore.
Yeah. I gotcha. Well, it sounds like we know the character trait you need to develop right now to make your dream life come true, or maybe it's something different because you've accomplished the self starter. But what character trait do you need to develop?
Um, I gotta continue to, like I said, step outside my own comfort zone.
Hmm.
It's easy to get stuck in a comfort zone. Discipline. Discipline is the character trait I need a little bit more of, especially when I'm in a place like the Bahamas. Every day I want to get in my dinghy and drive out to a coral reef and get in the water and go spearfishing. Even if I have fish in the fridge, like I want to go get another one and have some friends over for dinner. Like, or if there's surf, oh, forget about it. Like I'm going surfing. Like that's kind
Yeah,
of a rule I have for myself. Like when I have the opportunity to surf, okay, all bets are off for discipline and work. Like I'm going surfing. Like that's life to me. That's the whole point. Like surfing is so good sometimes it like justifies your entire life leading up to that moment because everything you've done in your whole life led you to that wave that was so good. It literally feels like a good surf session sometimes literally feels like it justified your entire life before that moment.
mm, that's
So
awesome.
surfing takes it, yeah, like it's okay not to go to work when there's good surf, in my opinion,
That's what
because it's that good.
I was listening to this dude. He's a real estate investor in Hawaii, and he said that
Hmm.
when there was like a good wave, the contractors would not come in to fix up the house that he was fixing and flipping. It was like a rule of working
Oh
with.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh, especially in Hawaii. I mean, that can happen in Florida too, but yeah, in Hawaii, forget about it. Like,
Yeah,
I'm sure entire towns shut down when there's good surf. Like, people are surfing. That's what they're doing. Like, that's like the national sport there.
yeah,
That's like a
yeah,
different country. Hawaii is a state, but it's really like a different country. It's their national sport.
for sure.
They're going surfing. Don't expect anything to happen besides people going surfing when there's good waves in Hawaii. Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's the same for me on the boat. If I'm in a place where there's good surf, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm gonna go. But and so as you can see, my discipline's a little
yeah,
right there's an example of how I could use a little more discipline. Um, yeah, we all need it. We all need a little more discipline. Well, I don't know if we all do, but I certainly um, could use a little bit more. Yeah, yeah, because geez, man, it takes about 1,000 hours to write a book. I can spend a year. I generally spend almost a year on each book. Um, you got to put and you could put 1,000 hours in a lot sooner than a year. But that's about what it takes, and you just got to buckle down and do it. There's more than just writing. Like you got to like I read books about writing. I take notes. I fill up notebooks with notes from other books about writing to try to get better at it.
yeah,
Um, why am I not doing that about marketing? I don't know, because it's more fun to learn how to write than it is to learn how to sell a book. So
yeah.
character trait I need, discipline. Yeah, there you go. I've got it for some things, but not for other things.
I got you. Well, if there
Yeah.
were one or two people you could meet right now, and this could be a specific person or a type of person, and they'd really help you take that next step towards your dreams and goals, who would that person be, and how would they help you?
Um, I would love to meet my favorite author, Cormac McCarthy. I would love to just meet him and pick his brain about his craft, how he does it. You know, what like when do you sit down to write? Do you write? How do you actually do it? What are you thinking about when you write?
How do you market
Um,
your books?
how do you market your books? Well, you know what? Like authors that are not self-published have publishers that market the books for them.
I got you.
There you
I
go.
got you.
Yeah. So that'd be another thing to learn. Like, okay, how do you even get there? Like, how do you, and is it worth it? The market is completely changing. Uh, some people say it's not worth it anymore to have a publisher because they own your book. When I self-publish, it's my book forever. I'll get paid by Amazon for the rest of my life from
Yeah,
selling that. When they sell that book, I get the same cut every time, every month for the rest of my life. The more books I publish, the more of a nest egg I'm building up. It's different when you have a publisher. They own the book. They might pay you in advance and you don't get any royalties, or you might get royalties for a few years and then no more. Um, that's a whole different ballgame, but they do all the marketing. So that, they make the cover. They they advertise the book. They put it in bookstores and wherever else. And they make all the advertisements. Like you don't have to think about that. You can just be an artist and write.
yeah,
So yeah, I would love to ask other authors about that. And this has all made me think, like, why don't I have a writing podcast so I can just interview authors once a week? I've interviewed quite a few actually sailing authors. Um, so I do that. And that's one of the things I do with my podcast. Like if I want to go to Canada, like I did last summer, I went to Newfoundland. I interviewed all the sailors I could find who had been there, ask them about it. So meeting people and asking them about things is a great way to learn something. You find someone who's an expert in what you're trying to learn and try to make friends with them and pick their brain. But yeah, I would love to meet Cormac McCarthy. He's my favorite author, and his books are just mind blowing. And I would love to learn just a little bit about how he does it, how he gets into the frame of mind, how he trained himself to be able to do what he does. That would be fascinating, I think.
Yeah, there we go. Well,
Yeah.
awesome. Paul, we got one last series of questions for you. Ready for it?
Okay. I'm ready.
What is one limiting belief that continues to pop up in your life, if any?
Yeah, limiting belief is that I'm gonna almost make it, but not almost make it as a writer, and not actually make it, not get to the next level, never reach the next level.
Yeah. And where's it come from?
It comes from other experiences with art. So I was a pretty good painter at one point, and I sold paintings. Never made it to the next level. I was a musician for a long time. Um, got to where we were one of the biggest band in our town, but never got national or never a national act.
Yeah.
Um, and now I'm trying to do it all as a writer. So that's probably where it comes from, experience. Where and who knows? If I would have stuck to those other arts, I might have eventually made it. So this time I'm sticking with it. Like writing is it. I'm not going anywhere. I am a writer. I will always be a writer. I am going to make it. I will make it to the next level.
There we
Tell
go.
yourself that stuff. Believe it.
I like that.
Yeah. Next
Cool.
level. It's coming.
Do you have any limiting actions that reinforce this limiting belief?
Oh, limiting actions.
Or inactions?
Yeah, like spending an entire day not writing. Yeah, that happens. Like write something. Come on.
Yeah.
Like at least the journal. At least bust out the journal and write something or write a poem. I used to write poems every day, and yeah, you need to write every day. You can't just not write. You can't just forget you're an author, when you're trying to be a self-employed artist.
Yeah.
You got to do it every day. Every day.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, if you were to change that limiting belief into an abundant phrase that really spoke to your heart in the way that you need to hear it, what would that phrase be?
How about the next level is coming? The next level is right around the corner. It's right there, staring me in the face. It's staring me in the face. I just got to look in the right direction and see it and reach out and grab it and take it because it's mine.
Yeah, I like the energy. Like the energy.
That's it, man. It's right there, man. You just gotta it's one little thing I'm not doing, and I gotta do it. What is it? I gotta find it. Gotta keep trying different things. When something isn't working, when you got a problem, when you're sailing, it's middle of the night, there's a sail that's stuck and that's flogging in the wind, and there's a squall, and it's raining and it's cold, and you can't figure out how to fix it, and you think your boat's about to get destroyed by the wind because this sail is stuck and not furled properly. This happened to me last year. You just got to keep trying different things. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to fix it. Try something else. Try something else. Try something else. Keep trying. Even if things don't make sense, just keep trying different things. Eventually, you'll figure it out just by persistence. And that literally, that quick thing I just described there happened to me on the way back from Canada last year on a cold, rainy night with strong winds and rough seas. I had a real situation and I solved it just by persistence. Just try different things until you hit the right one. Don't give up. You can't give up when you're on a sailboat. Like there's no just giving up.
Yeah.
There's no giving up. You can't, that's unacceptable when destruction and sinking in cold water is what's going to result from it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It's pretty easy not to give up.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, especially when your boat is your home and everything you own is on it.
That's a fact. That's a fact. A lot of incentive.
Yeah. There's a lot of incentive to solve that problem.
That's the skill we really all need. We just need to properly incentivize ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Properly incentivize. and a lot of that's mental. You got to keep telling yourself. I got to keep telling myself, I will be a carpenter again, driving around a van full of tools on I-95 in Florida
Hmm.
if I can't make this work.
Yep.
And I tell myself that all the time. Like, you got to make this work. You got to be self-motivated. You got to work, work, work. You got to write. You got to innovate, market, step outside your comfort zone, learn the things you don't want to learn. Yeah, I like this. I like this interview. Thanks for doing this with me because it's like making me repeat all this stuff and think about it.
Of
It's
course.
helping me. It's helping me out. I hope it helps other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. We got one last question for you. Ready?
Yes.
What is your favorite belief about yourself?
That I can do anything. If other people can do it, I can do it.
Mm,
If somebody else can do something, I can do it too. Somebody else can write a book that's so good it just blows your mind. So can I. I haven't done it yet, but I will. I can do it.
there we
I
go.
will learn how to do it. Yeah. Drop into a big wave and get barreled. Yeah, man, I can do it too. Whatever it is, I believe I can do it too.
Yeah.
I'm no worse than anybody else at anything. I haven't learned all the things, of course, but
Yeah.
I'm capable of learning how to do anything. Everybody
Absolutely.
is.
Paul, I got a question. Another question. I know that was my last
Sure.
question, but another one popped up.
Yeah, whatever you got, man, I'm ready.
Have you ever thought about building some sort of community around your sailing, around your books, where people are paying monthly for a consistent, exclusive value add to their life?
Wow. I mean, I've got a Patreon site that is might be like the rough draft of that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not what you just described, but it reminds me of it, and I think it could be. Is that where you're going with this, or what kind of community would you? How would you? What platform would you use to do something like that? Are you
Yeah,
doing it?
I'm not doing it right now, but I'm all about building communities. And when I'm thinking about my business, I've tried to build communities around this podcast and I've learned more and more. Like before, it was just everybody trying to accomplish your dreams and goals, come to this free community and hold each other accountable to accomplishing your dreams and goals every day. It was free,
Yeah.
so people would join. There was a low barrier at entry, but people didn't have a lot of skin in the game, so they didn't
Hmm.
consistently post.
Hmm.
So I thought I was like, okay, so they need skin in the game, so there needs to be some sort of pay barrier, but they also need a thing in common. Dreams and goals is too broad. If it was like real estate syndication in Austin, Texas, like that is a group, a community that you could get together and people would be active because it's a part of everybody's life in the group. And so
Hmm.
if you had a little bit of a pay barrier to a sailing group and specifically like sailing to help you with your alcoholism or something like that. It
Hmm.
could
Hmm.
it could add value in a way that only you would be able to, which means you could niche down enough to have a pretty exclusive community that would not only support you because they give a monthly 20, 50, $100 a month, but they also are buying your books and they're your best customers, which means they evangelize for you.
Yeah. Well, uh, I could I could get more serious about my Patreon page and make that sort of thing happen.
Hmm.
Right now, like I already post on there, and I already give them bonus content by posting videos and things I learn about sailing. I read one of my books on my Patreon site, so there's like a free audiobook on it.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, what you're describing is a great idea, and that would be a great way to manage your Patreon site because you can do all that on the Patreon site.
Yeah.
It's basically a site kind of like Facebook, but you have to be a member to be on it.
Hmm.
And the people that are on it because they listen to my podcast and they support me through that, and they're willing to pay whatever they want. Some people pay $1 a month, some pay 25. It's up to them. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good idea, and that's another thing. That's another marketing thing, discipline thing that I should be doing more of.
Yeah.
It's
Just
already there.
driving more
The
traffic.
platform is already there. The people are already there.
Yeah.
Um, I could be doing more with my YouTube site too. I've got, you know, a sale. I've got a YouTube channel like most people do. Uh, that I could be taking much more seriously because a lot of sailors are making their livings off of YouTube channels.
Yeah.
You know, I just post like very, a couple videos a year.
Uh,
Whereas people that doing it right are putting out a couple a month.
hmm.
Yeah, there's more to be done out here. There's much more to be done besides hanging out on the boat, reading books. You know, I spend a lot of time reading, you know, which I need to because I'm a writer. But it's also like an escape. Like you feel like you're doing something important, but you're not like doing the hard work that you don't want to do.
But there's also that balance, right? Like you can't start running a business making 200,000 a month and be on your sailboat living the lifestyle that you want, you know? And so you
Oh
don't
yeah.
want to scale something so large that it hurts your lifestyle.
No, I need 1/10 of that, and I'd be happy.
Yeah.
I mean 1/100th of that. Give me $2,000 a month.
Oh yeah.
Boom. I'm doing it. That would perpetuate this lifestyle. $2,000 a month. That's not very much. That's all I need to make.
Yeah. I got you.
And I'm almost there with just with book sales and Patreon, but it'll happen.
Uh,
Um, Even less than that is the minimum. There's a minimum number. I'm there's a minimum necessary number to survive on. I know what it is.
I
I
got
do
you.
math.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the balance is there. I'm not greedy. Like, give me just the bare minimum to survive on, man, and I'm happy and the happiest person in the world. It
Happy
doesn't take
camper.
a lot of money to be happy. You just need to have the things you need. And for me, it's a sailboat and enough food to eat,
Yeah.
and and a computer to write books on, and internet access, and
Yeah.
some free diving gear and some surfboards. There's some wetsuits. There's a few things, but
Mhm.
not much. I don't need much.
I feel you. Well, awesome.
Yeah.
Paul, that's all we got for you, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's been a total pleasure. Yeah, let me know when this airs, and I'll copy and paste it. I'll embed it on my website on paultrammell.com, and I'll be listening more to your podcast. This has been it's inspiring. I've inspired myself. You've helped me to inspire myself to work harder, and I hope your listeners are inspired too.
There we go. That's the goal of the show. So I'm happy that it happened. Appreciate you
Yeah,
coming
right
on.
on.
If you guys are listening to this, you loved what Paul had to say, make sure to check him out. All the links to do so will be down in the show notes. Look at his podcast, give him a review, send $10 a month to the Patreon, support the man's lifestyle, and share the message about his book that can help some people get sober if you know somebody struggling with that. Again,
Right on.
yes, sir. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you on the next one. And on that note, we're out.